like to talk to you today about a saint who was a martyr in the 1800s. He died on April 28th, 1841. His name was St. Peter Chanel. Now, Peter Chanel was born in France in 1803, and as a youngster, he was a shepherd. He was the fifth of 8 children, but he was very smart. His parish priest decided to open a small school, and he convinced Peter's parents to send Peter to the school. And it turned out he excelled both in piety, that is, prayerfulness and his sense of faith, and he also excelled in his studies. So as time went on, he studied more and studied more and studied more, and at some point somebody suggested, "Peter, you should be a priest." And so he became one. Now, he went to the seminary and continued his education, and he became a priest. He loved to visit the sick, and there came a point where they made him a pastor of a parish that was just a wreck. On Sundays and holy days of obligation, the pews were empty, the children were unattended, nobody was teaching them, and so he threw himself into the work. And he did such a good job, especially with visiting the sick, taking care of the dying, that the people came back to the church. The people were impressed with his piety, the people were impressed with his sense of service, and so back they came. There was a long-standing dream of his, though, that he wanted to be a missionary. So he was always asking, "Could I please go to the missions? Could I please go to the missions?" And he was denied time after time. Finally, he heard about a community of diocesan priests who were going to devote themselves to the Blessed Mother and go off to the missions. And so he joined. He became one of the Marist brothers, the Society of Mary. Well, finally, in 1837, his dreams came true, and he was sent to the southwestern Pacific Ocean, to an island in the New Hebrides chain called Futuna. He was sent to this island, and it was horribly difficult, it turned out. It was not what he was imagining. He had to learn this language that was totally foreign to him. He had gone unprepared. Nobody had taught him the language ahead of time, and he really had to struggle to learn that language. At the same time, the diet there was nothing like anything he had known in France, and so he found himself being sick much of the time. Because he couldn't communicate very well, it was hard to teach people about the faith, so he suffered from want, and he suffered from great loneliness while he was there. Now, he was there 5 years. 2 years into it, there was a cyclone, and the cyclone knocked every building on the island flat, and he sprang into action. He did what he could to help. He did what he could to take care of the sick. He did what he could to take care of the injured. He tended to the dying, and it earned him the name, "He whose heart is full of kindness." And so people began to respect him and respect his work there. Still, it went slowly. He gained a few converts, a few people were baptized, and a few more were under instruction. But one day, he converted the son of the chief of the island, the king of the island. And it turns out that was, for Peter, a dangerous idea. When the young man expressed interest in being baptized, Peter was killed, because the chief did not want to lose his place as not only king, but high priest. And so Peter lost his life. He was clubbed to death. The interesting thing is this. You could think that maybe his story just ended there, but it didn't. Because he had shown such kindness, because even in the midst of great want, great hunger, he was still cheerful and kind. Even though he didn't have a great deal of success, he kept on trying, and during that time of trouble, he helped so much. People were impressed, and 2 years after his death, the whole island was Catholic. Everybody had converted, even the man who killed him. And that man who killed him had one request, that when he died, he would be buried outside Peter's church that he had there. So when people came to church, they would walk over his grave, because he needed to do penance for having killed Peter Chanel. When I think about Peter Chanel, what it impresses me is this. First, he knew great hardship, but he responded in a very Christ-like fashion. That's a lesson that we could all take to heart, and the world would be a better place if we did. And the second thing we need to remember about Peter is that he didn't see great success in his lifetime, but the success came after his courageous death. We never know how the work we do is going to end up. We don't know what seeds we are planting. All we know is that God is calling us to be faithful. And when we are, who knows what's going to happen next? Great things could happen down the road. Maybe we'll live to see those great things. Maybe we won't. But in the end, God's will be done. And so if we're doing our best to be a part of that will, if we're doing our best to be an agent of that will, who knows? Great things can and will happen because God's part of the equation. So next time you're in a tough spot, next time things are difficult, next time the deck seems to be stacked against you, think about St. Peter Chanel. And remember, you just got to try, you just need to be faithful, and God will make great things happen.